The iPhone 17 Air is the most anticipated iPhone ever, and even though we're still over 6 months away from its launch, there's a lot of leaks that make it the most innovative iPhone launch we've ever seen. And my question is, did anyone really ask for this? Yes, of course it's a big deal to make an extremely thin phone, but is it worth waiting for this phone to come out? Is it a downgrade from the Pro and Pro Max models? Is it more expensive than the other iPhones? I'm taking you through all of the updates coming to the iPhone 17 Air this year. The iPhone 17 Air adopts the Air from the MacBook Air lineup, standing for thin and light. This is a major move following Apple's current goal of making the thinnest products of all time across their entire lineup. First, starting with the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, coming in at just 5.1 millimeters thin and 1.5 pounds. And now, of course, adopting to the iPhone lineup, and we're super excited to see how thin this is actually going to be. So the headline feature of the 17 Air isn't a feature at all, it's the thickness of the phone. Set to break records coming in this ultra slim 5.5 millimeters thin, which would be thinner than the current thinnest iPhone, which is the iPhone 6, coming in at 6.9 millimeters thin, versus the current 16 Pro models coming in at 8.25 millimeters. And not getting caught up in the numbers and just seeing the difference here, it's such a massive difference. I can't wait to see how thin this thing actually is to hold in the hand. All of that said, we're specifically talking about the thinness of the body, completely ignoring the camera bump, which will still exist. So I'm truly excited about this phone in a way that I haven't been excited about iPhones in a long time. But the one concern that I have, or really the two concerns I have, are number one, does anyone really want this? Like in a world where you can have the entire complete iPhone lineup this year of the 17, 17 Plus, 17 Pro or Pro Max, or the iPhone SE4, and now the 17 Air, I'm not totally sure who this phone is for, or really who was even asking for a thinner phone to begin with. And then second, that if we're going to get this ultra thin phone, and they have to condense everything, cameras, battery, chips for performance, what gets sacrificed in the process? So the most obvious thing here that gets sacrificed is, of course, the cameras. On the front, you're actually getting an improved camera coming in at 24 megapixels, which enhances selfie and video call quality. But then on the back, you're downgrading to just one single lens. That's going to be 48 megapixel camera on the back, as Apple focuses on just having one strong camera. This means you're still going to get 4K video, high quality photos in day and low light, but you're removing the ability to get the ultra wide photos or the macro photography to some degree. And I just wonder how many people are actually going to be happy with those trade-offs for something as simple as the thinness of the phone. The display is set to be an upgrade here, expected to sport a 6.6-inch OLED screen reaching up to 120 Hz, which is comparable to the Pro and Pro Max lineup, which will look awesome. I'm really excited to see this, and I think, personally, in the entire 2025 lineup, every single phone should have a 120 Hz display at this point, but we'll see if it actually makes it to the 17 and 17 Plus this year. But the other interesting thing about these phones is the performance. So we're set to have the latest A19 chip, which is the same chip set to be unveiled with all of the other iPhone 17 series, promising enhanced performance and efficiencies for Apple Intelligence, but also possibly battery life, which we'll get to later in this video. Reports also suggest that the new iPhone will have up to 8 GB of RAM to keep performance similar to the rest of the lineup, while making the phone overall slimmer than before. Now, one unknown about this device is whether it will come equipped with Apple's new in-house 5G modem, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth chips. They're said to be developing these right now internally, and they should lead to better overall reception and reduce Apple's reliance on external suppliers, but it's unknown whether these chips are actually coming out with the phones this year, and of course what other advantages they'll have. I can say without a doubt the largest question that everybody is asking about this phone is battery life, right? It seems like the most obvious area that gets cut when a phone gets physically smaller. I mean, even looking at the Pro versus the Pro Max phones, it typically leads to a reduction in about 6 hours of battery life. So what does that mean when you're making a phone like the 17 Air? Well, it's said to have somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 milliamps of battery life, which traditionally means a range between 15 to 24 hours of battery life, which is obviously a massive range, and we don't know if the A19 chip will give better performance for the battery life or not, so there's a lot to stay tuned for here. So the new iPhone 17 Air joins the lineup of the new iPhones this year, but it's unclear where it actually fits in. Breaking this down in 2025, you've got the iPhone SE4, then you've got the iPhone 17 and 17 Plus, and then you have the 17 Pro and Pro Max. And now, of course, the introduction of the Air. So Apple has decisions to make here. Does it make the iPhone 17 Air more expensive because it takes a lot of complex engineering to make a phone like this and so advanced yet so small? Or does it then shift and become middle ground between the regular and the Pro lineups? And then of course that impacts price and everything as well. Rumors have suggested that this phone could actually just flat out replace the 17 Plus, which could make sense because Apple usually always launches the regular and the Pro lineups, but has experimented first with the Mini lineup, then removing that in favor of the Plus lineup, now possibly replacing that again with the Slim lineup. So even though nothing's confirmed yet, it probably makes the most sense to replace the Plus with this model. We'll have to stay tuned to see. The price point of this phone is suggested to start between $899 and $999 US, between the pricing of the 17 and 17 Pro, but of course that could change and it could end up being more than the Pro Max. We won't know until they launch it. In terms of launch date, this phone is set to launch with the 17 lineup at Apple's usual September event, launching mid to late September. And Apple may have some competition in the market this year, with an upcoming Samsung launch of the Samsung S25 Edge, a new ultra-slim Android phone that was previously unveiled at Samsung's Unpacked event in January. Now, press got a glimpse of this phone while it was on display, but they couldn't get close enough to see how it worked or how it feels in the hand, so little is actually known about that phone yet. So with all of the information that's out there right now, I'm more interested in this phone than any other iPhone launch in a long time. First, because as Apple crams more and more into this phone, I want to see whether it becomes the more expensive or if they actually launch it alongside of the base model phone. And second, I just want to see who actually buys this thing. There's nothing worse than paying a premium for a thinner phone and then putting a case on it that makes it thicker. So it's likely that this phone will be for those who embrace the slimmer phone without a case, which is a niche amount of people. So we'll have to see how well this phone actually sells and if it sticks around or if this is just kind of a one-year thing. Let me know in the comments if this is a phone that you would actually pick up or if you're interested in a different phone from the lineup this year. If you want to see my full review when this phone does launch, remember to hit subscribe. Also, if you want to see any more rumor roundups of Apple's products, because there is a lot coming this year, let me know which one in the comments. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.